Hey everybody, I'm Tony with Creative Gems. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a 3-stack pendant necklace. If you can learn how to make this, you can pretty much stamp any pendant from here on out. These are going to be the basics of what you're going to need to make a necklace. So stay tuned. So the tools that we're going to be using today are going to be, of course, our stamping jig. We're going to be using our regular anvil, just a flat one for pendants. And today I'm also going to be using our hole punch and our flat edge pliers, our jump ring pliers, and I'm going to use a ball peen hammer because I'm going to show you a couple of texturing techniques as well. For our pieces today, I'm using a copper 1-inch round pendant, a 3 1/4 inch pendant, and a 1/2 inch stainless steel pendant. Okay, so the pieces we're going to be using to make our necklace today are going to be a 1-inch copper round piece. We're also, to layer on top of that, we're going to use a 3 1/4 inch round brass piece, and then we're going to be ending it with a 1/2 inch round stainless steel. The reason why I'm giving you the sizes is because you want to leave about an 1/8 inch in between each stackable piece, and that allows you to put your letters in there. We're also going to be using a 8mm jump ring right here to put our necklace together, and I picked this 18-inch stainless steel, I call them a dainty chain. And it's just a really popular chain. Looks good, hypoallergenic, and it's nice and strong. Okay folks, so for the first one, I'm gonna get my smallest piece. It doesn't really matter which piece you start with. I always just start with the smallest one. I'm gonna tear the backing off of it. And then I'm not gonna do a mirror finish on this one. I'm gonna do a brush finish because I like them better when they're brushed. They just look better to me. That's my style of jewelry. You can find your own style as you move through your stamping jewelry. So I'm going to take my sanding sponge here, and I'm just going to give it a little rub really quick with the sanding sponge. This is a 120 grit sanding sponge. You can get these at any hardware store. So now it has a nice brush finish. I'm going to put it on my pendant here, and I'm going to do the name Zoe on this one. And usually on these 1/2 inch pendants, I can usually put about 13 to 14 characters. So keep that in mind when you're doing names. You know, if you can't fit the name on that piece, you can always drop the name down to the second piece. There's my O, so I'm gonna put in my O, and I'm gonna turn my mount just a little bit so the O fits right next to the Z. There's my O. And now I'm gonna turn it again right here, and I'm gonna use the E right here. Okay, there you have Zoe. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to put this down for now, and I'm going to grab my brass piece, the middle piece, which is 3 1/4 inch, and I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to do the name Cole. I'm going to start with my C. I'm going to put the C in upside down because I'm dropping it on the bottom of the piece itself. So it helps to fit it in a lot easier when the letter's upside down, because I can get closer to that back edge. Because if I did it this way, like right side up, there's not enough room for the piece to be at the bottom of the mount. So I always do mine upside down. So I start with my C. And keep in mind when you're working with different metals, they're going to be different hardness. So you might have to ease up, like say you go from stainless steel to brass to copper. Those are different hardness of metals. So you don't have to hit the brass and the copper as hard as you're going to hit the stainless steel. Just keep that in mind, which you'll learn more and more kind of how you stamp as you're using different materials. So now I'm going to put my L in. And every single letter, I'm just turning my base mount. I'm not actually turning the piece. I'm just turning the little mount. Here's my L, and finally the E. And there's coal here, see? So I'm gonna put that one down, and then I'm gonna grab my last and final piece, the copper piece. I'm using 3 different metals because I like the contrast that it gives. It's a really cool rustic patina look as the copper and the brass ages, and it's just an all-around popular piece. For the third name, I'm gonna do Bobby, which is a little bit longer, so I like to try to tier the names from longest to shortest from the bottom to the top. It just looks a little bit better, more symmetrical as the piece goes. But when you're talking to your customer, you just ask them however they would like the name. So there's my B, and I'm gonna take my O and I'm gonna flip it upside down. Get my O. I'm just gonna make sure everything's level and lined up as the curve of the piece. My second B. So as you can see, I'm just moving just the piece a little bit every time. And as you progress through your stamping, it'll be muscle memory to be able to turn the piece. And finally the Y. And there you got Bobby. So I'm gonna put this down because I'm gonna start putting the necklace together. On this particular one, I'm gonna do a little texturizing just to make it look a little more rustic version. So with that, I'm gonna use my sound deadening pad and then my steel block. I cover my steel block half with electrical tape. I do that because it seems that the electrical tape gives me a really nice divot as I hit it with the hammer. It gives it a softer landing, which is a nice kind of bottom end piece. And I only do half of it because sometimes when I hit my metal, I want a harder surface to push the metal out. Just different texturing techniques. So I'm gonna start with the edge here, and I'm just gonna hit the edge until I'm happy with the way it looks. So I'm gonna do the edges on the harder part to give it that spread of the metal. And I'm gonna be careful around the name that you don't hit the letter, because if you hit the letter, it's gonna squish the metal down and the letter won't be able to take the paint. So from here, here's what I just did on the edges here. Pushes it out, and now I'm gonna move it over to where I've wrapped it in electrical tape, and I'm gonna hit the inside of the actual piece. And then see it kind of curves when the metal starts to bend. I'm just gonna use the flat end of my ball peen hammer and I'm gonna flatten that edge out. I'm gonna put this one down. I'm gonna grab my brass piece and do the same exact thing. And be careful not to hit your finger, but you'll probably hit your finger a couple times and you'll learn your lesson quick. Remember, I'm being careful around the name. Now I'm hitting the inside. And it's like this. And then I'm gonna grab my steel one. And because the steel's harder, I really can't hit the steel on the electrical tape because it's just not gonna create the divot size that I want. So I'm gonna hit it on the hard edge. Just a couple of taps to bring consistency through the necklace. All right, so that's all finished. Now I'm gonna grab all 3 of my pieces and I'm gonna paint them. So I grab my paint pen. Now I'm going to find my middle point so I can use my hole punch to punch the holes through the piece to put it together and chain it up. So I'm gonna get my little pen. I'm gonna go up from the middle letter and I'm gonna mark my middle point in between the first letter and the last letter. So I'm gonna use my hole punch, put it in here, and then push down, and that's gonna create my hole that I need. I'm gonna use my thumb and I'm gonna pull this out right here. And then I'm gonna take my first smallest piece and I'm gonna line it up with my second piece to where the names line up, and I'm gonna mark my hole there. So you want everything to line up all the way through. So I find my middle, and the more jewelry you make, the easier you'll be able to find the middle of things. It'll just come natural. All right, I'm gonna punch through my brass piece. There. And I'm gonna pull it out. And then I'm gonna take this brass piece on my third final piece, the copper piece. I'm gonna line up the coal with the bobby and mark my piece there. So coal and bobby are lined up. I'm gonna use my little pen here, mark my hole, and I'm gonna get my hole punch, cut it down. I'm gonna punch my third and final hole here. Copper is very easy to go through. Okay, that's that. So now I have my 3 pieces all with holes in them ready to be chained up on a necklace. So from here is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my 8mm jump ring, my jump ring pliers, my flat nose pliers. I'm gonna grab my jump ring here. I'm gonna split the jump ring so I can put my pieces in, and I'm gonna layer my pieces from bottom to top. So there's the bobby piece, here's the coal piece, and then here's Zoe. Then from here, I'm gonna put my chain in. I grab my chain. It's nice if you ask your customer if they're right or left-handed, because you can put the clasp on whatever their dominant hand is, which makes it easier to put the necklace on and off. Just something nice and courteous you can do for your customer. So from there, now you see my chain is in the necklace here, and I'm gonna grab my jump ring plier, my flat plier, and I'm gonna push and push the 2 ends together until you hear that click. That click is very important because that means it's very, very tight. So no pieces or chain or anything will fall out of the piece. And then from here, put all my tools down, grab my polishing cloth and give it a quick shine just to wipe off all excess ink or fingerprints or whatever. Shine up every piece. And there you have it. Beautiful necklace. Depending on how much you want to sell this for, these usually go for between $40 and $60 to $70 depending on how much you want to charge for your services. All right, so there you have it, folks. That's a 3-stack pendant necklace, very, very popular necklace. You can put a lot of names on these if you want. If you have any questions or anything, don't hesitate to call or email us. All of what you see here is in the links down below if you want to find them. And remember, big things have small beginnings.